Hi, everyone. It's Amy. Quick heads up before today's episode for some context. This isn't one of our typical wellness and beauty chats, but it is wellness in real life, in my opinion. So I interviewed Alexis White, who you may know her. She's college expert on Instagram and TikTok. She has a pretty big following, and she's great because the college admissions process is honestly one of the most stressful seasons I've been through as a parent. And if you're in the thick of it or it's coming, your nervous system knows what I mean. And so I wanted to talk to Alexis because she really makes this process feel less overwhelming. She does not gatekeep. I don't know, this conversation just felt like a deep breath to me because we talk about how to stay sane, what actually matters in high school, how to tune out the noise and focus on your kid. I just went through the college process with my oldest. And so I know that it's a lot of pressure. There's comparisons, there's so much mystery, and it can completely take over your life if you let it. And so I think Alexis really has this gift of making this whole thing feel clear and doable and not so dramatic. You know what I mean? So we talk about staying sane, shutting out the chatter, what really matters in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and so on, and why a job can really be one of the best things your kid does. So if you are a mom with a high schooler, I made this one for you. Let's dive in.
You're listening to Wellness Junkies, where wellness gets real, not perfect.
Welcome back to Wellness Junkies. I'm so excited. It's Amy, and I'm so excited to be here with Alexis White, aka college expert. And if you all are like me, you probably watch her videos. She has such good videos about the process, college, everything we need to know about college. So let me just give her bio, and then I'll explain why I want her on the show in a second. Okay, Alexis White, college expert on TikTok and Instagram, is a nationally recognized college admissions expert and founder of A-List Tutoring. She and her team help students worldwide with standout essays, personalized coaching, and clear strategic guidance through the entire admissions process. Alexis shares daily advice on TikTok and Instagram, hosts the podcast Admit It with Alexis White, and has been featured on CBS, ABC News, The Daily Beast, The Huffington Post, and in the nonfiction book Unacceptable. She's known for making the college process less overwhelming and more empowering for every student she works with. And I wanted to have her on the show. I know it's not exactly wellness, but it is self-care, I think, going through the college process, because I just went through it, and my whole mantra was like, breathe, like don't get stressed out. That was like my biggest thing because it is so freaking stressful. There's so much information out there. It's madness. And we were just talking before we started recording, and you were just saying, you don't want this information to be gatekept, which is so true because it is a bit of a mystery. But hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'll give background kind of as a mom to start.
Yeah.
Like when my kids were little, and my older son, I always had a tutoring company. I started my tutoring company right out of college. I've had it for over 20 years. And I was always and when I started it, listen, I was going to people's houses at 21 years old and, tutoring them in geometry. Okay. I went to UCLA. I had graduated. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And tutoring was my college job. So I was like, well, I'll just kind of keep doing that.
Yeah.
And then I ended up, pairing up with somebody that I went to Marlboro. For those of you guys who are in LA, you're familiar with that school. And if you're not, then if you're a New Yorker, it's kind of like a Dalton or a Spencer, one of those places. It's intense, it's crazy. And I was not an amazing student. I was fine. I had to work really, really, really hard to get like an A- or a B+.
Yeah.
But every girl around me, it was an all-girls school. Every girl around me was, was going to Wharton and going here and going there. And they were all, Cornell and Columbia and whatever. I went to UCLA, which at the time to them was like a community college to them.
And P.S. It's amazing, by the way.
Oh, you're staying home. That's cute. Like, literally, joke. Anyway. The reason why I bring that up is I've always felt very passionate about helping kids and helping them and sharing what I learned as a tutor, like with study skills and this and that, and what worked for me. Fast forward, the tutoring starts transitioning to college admissions. We still have the tutoring company, but I don't do academic tutoring anymore, except if I'm sitting in my living room with my own annoying kids. I felt like my older son has ADHD, and I knew from the time he was 3 years old, I was like, we can't wait to get medicated. Yay. I knew he was going to be tested at age 7. I had my whole, because I've worked with so many hundreds of kids.
My older is ADHD as well and dysgraphia. I get it.
So his struggle was real. And I was like, I cannot wait to, be an early interventionist and get in and do the things so that he can really thrive. What I realized was that nobody around me talked about this. Nobody talked about their kids' issues. Nobody talked about seeing specialists. Nobody talked about ed therapy or OT and I was just decided I was going to be the verbal vomit person. I'm like, oh, we're going to OT, or, oh, he's being tested, or, oh, and then people's, ears would perk up and go, oh, you think he might have ADHD? And I'm like, I know he has ADHD. I'm ready for that report. Boom. And I noticed how comfortable people were like, tell me more, because nobody talks about it, and they found comfort in so the college piece of things is really an extension of how I've parented my kids too, which is, and I was doing the college piece long before I ever had my own kids.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to know about the things. And the idea that there isn't one hub, one place for people to go for everything from when is school's going to come out with people ask me, they're like, when is Auburn coming out? When is Wisconsin coming out? Why isn't there information for people?
Right. It's all hush hush.
It's all, and nobody, and especially if you're on the East Coast, if you're in different towns in New Jersey or, you're in New York City or whatever, nobody talks about anything.
Right.
Everybody's very nervous to share their secrets with their friends and their neighbors and their whatever.
Yes.
So the gatekeeping is the thing that I'm really hoping to kind of break down and give people access. Being an independent college admissions consultant is an extremely boutique, high-end, niche, fancy thing. And that's wonderful for people who can afford it. And that's how I make my living. And that's wonderful. That's great. And even people who can't afford it really, sacrifice to do it.
Yeah.
And I think we do amazing work. But I also think there's information that can be delivered that doesn't have to be at that price point, stuff that everybody should know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service, because we love that.
That was a long speech.
No, it's very true. And most of our listeners that are tuning in, they're around our age, they're moms, they're 40 plus, their kids are going through the process. And I didn't know what I didn't know until I went through the process with my older son, who's now a freshman in college. But it was so overwhelming. I found you, which helped me stay sane, because I would watch your videos and I'd be like, okay, he's going to get in somewhere. It's going to happen. It's all good. But he also, we have a counselor at school who, but there's 2 counselors at the school. He's at a private school, so it's not like there's a ton of kids in his grade, but there was over 100 kids in his grade, and there's only 2 counselors. So I'm like, how much are they going to work with my kid? And how much are they really going to dive in to what he really needs? And so I felt like I had to do that on my own. And we did have someone helping, which was very, very helpful. But yes, to your point, not everybody it's not accessible for everyone. Plus, to your point, there's no real hub for all this information that's legitimate. So the first question I'm going to ask you before we get into the process and all that stuff, how do we, what is your advice for staying sane as parents during this process? Because I feel as soon as your kids enter high school, it's the pressure's on and everybody's chattering, and the older they get, the more the chatter and the more overwhelmed. So how do we stay sane other than watching your videos?
Well, first of all, you watch a college expert on TikTok and on Instagram, and you listen to my podcast, admit it. All right. How do you stay sane? The number one thing is just like you mentioned, your child is going to get into college. However, I think one of my kind of caveat with all that stuff is you stay sane by ultimately knowing that you're going to have a list that makes sense for your kid. So let's say your kid is in 10th grade and you're starting to hear the buzz and the talk. What you say to yourself is, I know that we're going to select schools that are right for my child. And at the end of the day, when everybody's a freshman, it doesn't matter whether they're at U of A, whether they're at Cornell, whether they're at Wisconsin, whether they're at University of Georgia. They're all doing the same thing.
Yep.
Comes home and everybody's so happy to see each other and blah, blah, blah. So you just got to make it to freshman year where, barring exceptions where somebody goes and hates their school or whatever, which is, if you find the fit in the list, Very rarely will you have that issue unless there's a major shift in, deciding whether or not maybe your college doesn't have the major that you want. Like I'm working with a transfer student right now who has decided she wants to pursue a specific major and a specific path. Her school just literally doesn't offer it.
Yeah.
But okay, so how do you do that? You put your earmuffs on and you stop listening to what people's ideas are of, oh, I've heard that if somebody goes to this school, they'll never get a job. I've heard that the kids at this school are all on drugs. I've heard that everyone at this school they're all clubbing at the bar and they're all bougie. I've heard that. It's just you put your earmuffs on, you go, that's great. And then you just focus on your kid. You close your front door and you just focus on your kid. What's best for me? My kid has learning differences. My kid's super social. My kid's super STEMmy. My kid's super artsy. Like what is right for, you might have a kid who ends up going to Tisch and then your other kid might end up going to, University of Alabama. There's just, so then my other thing is, and I did a post about this recently, tour your safety schools. Like make the effort with the school that you know your kid is absolutely getting into. When you go see,
and you said before they apply, just like,
yes, if you kind of compile a list. Let's say you got 20 schools on the list.
Yeah. 25%
of those schools are reaches. Middle 50 is pretty targety. Lower 25 is that kind of, and depending, of course, it depends on if your kid has a 4.4 GPA, then the lower 25% is considered a safety is probably going to be a school that has, let's say, a 40% acceptance rate. But if your kid has a 3.5, that's going to be a school that has a 70 or an 80% acceptance rate. Go see it. Go see University of Delaware. Go see University of Alabama. Go see Arizona. Go see those schools that you know, because when you do that, and I would say 90% of the time, my clients will come back to me and go, we really liked it, right? It's like, I wasn't, because you weren't expecting to like something that your kid could actually get into. You were expecting to, worship these idols that are completely.
And by the way, I went to Arizona and it is like literally the best school ever. It's gorgeous.
It's amazing. And Allison and I always talk about this. Allison, you'll probably cut this out.
Our mutual friend.
Yes, I talk about this with a lot of people, some of the most successful humans that I know. And when I see that definition of success, whether financial, they're running their own businesses, they're super happy. Arizona and Boulder.
Oh, my son's at Boulder. Oh my God, I love hearing that.
Yeah, Arizona and Boulder.
That's so interesting. I wonder why. It's the mountains.
It's just, I think it's usually because you ended up at the place that was really the right place for you. Mm-hmm. And I think, so I'm not a prestige pusher. I don't believe in any of that stuff. And I went to the prep school where I went to the college that was kind of like the whatever place, even though it's not, but it was at the time. And by the way, at the time that I went to college, USC was also the loser school. If you went to USC, you were absolutely a dumbass.
It's crazy.
It was where you went to find a husband and you were in a country club and you lived in Orange County and you were like, never, and that's what you do. So anyway, I've seen all of those things run their course and I know how stupid they are. So if you just focus on your kid, laser focus, earmuffs, you will be so much happier. Your kid will be so much happier. If you have a kid who tends to be very stressed out, I have the opposite. I have kids who couldn't care less what's happening around them. And but if you have a kid who tends to be like, I heard I was supposed to be doing this thing. Right. Then you do have to kind of honor that. And I deal with that with my clients where a lot of times I want the kids to chill out, but telling them that doesn't help them. You have to honor okay, let's go through the things you want to do this summer. You feel like you want to do an internship. You feel like you want to do a program. You feel like let's pick 2 things because those 5 are just not literally going to fit into the summer. What is the most important thing? Where do you want to learn? What are you most curious about? What do you think will be the most personally enriching? Forget what other people are telling you need for college. All you need for your college application is some passion and some interest in a few things, quality over quantity. We don't need 10 activities. We need 5 or 6 or 4, 2 of which might be varsity sports.
Yeah. And I love that you just said that about the passion because everybody has a passion. And so many kids are incredible students and they have the 4.5 and the 5.0 and all the things, but like they're robots. And if you can show a passion in something, then it makes you unique. And I think people tend to forget that. They're so worried about the grades, but like everybody has good grades. So many people have good grades.
And that's the thing, school to school, it all depends on what public school your kid goes to or what private school you're in. There's some schools have a bad reputation for grade inflation. Some school, at some schools, it's impossible to get above a 3.8, no matter what you do.
Right.
Every AP on the planet, you're never getting a B+ in a class, they cap it. It's like going to Michigan or something where they're like, only 2 people in this class are going to get an A. Mm-hmm. So what is it? A passion will bump a kid who's a 3.3 or a 3.4 up to like a 3.7 status.
Yeah.
And by the way, my trade secret is 3.7 is going to the same school that 3.4 is at the end of the day. Yeah. 3.7 is not people are like, my daughter's a really good GPA. It's a 3.7. That's a great GPA. She's still going to go to the school that the 3.3 and the 3.4 are going to. Mm-hmm. What the barrier, the barrier is broken at 3.9, 4, and then up consistently. That means you have an A average across the board, consistent. Okay.
But anything other than that, it's all kind of...
At the end of the day, you got to be really open-minded and understand that just because you think your kid is a good student, again, like you said, they're all good students. What is the thing? Does your kid love fashion? Does your kid love sports media? Does your kid love, business? Does your kid love art? And remember who your kid was at age 7 or 8. What was that thing that they loved to do that you kind of go, I feel like this is kind of who you are. Mm-hmm. Just in their soul, not, that they're going to be an artist per se, but
right.
Things that say about their brain and how they work and what makes them happy.
So you were just talking about the summer piece. And for example, I have a 10th grader, I have a freshman at Boulder, and I have the 10th grader. And I'm trying to figure out right now, what should he do during the summer? That's, enriching, that he has a good time. He just finished sleepaway camp last year. So he's done with that. But what can I do this summer to, I don't know, whether it's have him learn something new or I don't know. I'm looking all over the place because I'm not sure what he should do. That would be fun for him, but also something that he could put on his resume or something he could learn from, etc.
What does he like to do? This is the first question every parent.
What does he like to do? I don't know. He likes to be busy, he likes hanging with his friends, but he really likes sports. He's a huge golfer. So in my head, I was like, I would love to find some sort of golf teen tour, which I don't think exists, but something like that, where it's he could play golf every day.
Okay, we're done with teen tours now. Okay, guys, East Coasters. You have a 10th grader, you're done with the teen tours. They're cute and they're fun and whatever. If he likes to play golf, why can't he work at the club that you belong to?
Yeah.
Can he teach kids how to play golf? Can he shadow the pros? Can he all that stuff?
Interesting.
Let him work at the golf course the whole summer. Let him work at the snack shack. Let him work at the whatever. So he's surrounded by it all day. But if he likes kids, they presumably have some sort of camp or something.
Right.
Low hanging fruit. What's right in front of him and what's right in front of you. Don't make your life hard. Don't spend $1 bajillion. Now, if a teen tour fits in a 2-week fun times, whatever, fine.
Right.
But I think it's better off for him to basically be prepping for the SAT and working.
I love that. Yeah. The working's big. It's funny. My older son who's at Boulder, it wasn't really a teen tour, but it was this UCLA program. Mm-hmm. So he lived in the dorms for 3 weeks and took classes, and he took an entrepreneurship class and a psychology class, I think. And they didn't count towards college or anything, but he loved it because he learned a lot and he got to pitch an idea. And so to me, it's kind of in the teen tour realm, but it was actually more valuable. So I liked that. But
the other programs, so let's talk about summer programs for a minute, because I think there's a lot of people get really crazy about this. All right. There are two people that should go to summer programs. The person who's never been on a college campus, has no idea what they want out of this universe, has no concept. Usually they're a boy. And they're all over the place.
Clueless.
And you really need to you want to just go to the college campus, live there for 3 weeks, meet people from around the world, just immerse yourself in this and come back and tell me whether or not you like Boston. Okay.
Right.
There's that person. Then there's the person who really is interested and curious about a certain industry, like you're talking about sports. I would say more often than not, the two things are sports or business that kids are really curious about and that would benefit from a summer program. The really good ones are the ones that are run by the universities themselves, like the UCLA program. USC has a good one. If it's sports, if he's interested in kind of analytics, marketing, media, anything related to sports world, Wharton has their classic Moneyball Academy. That was like basically that's all about analytics. So if you kind of have a kid who's into stats and stuff like that, that works. They also have a sports business one. And cool. Others that are around. I think the biggest barrier to entry with those programs is the time commitment. Georgetown has programs that are shorter. Boston College has a really good program that I like a lot because I love that campus and I love the reviews that I get from those programs from kids. So those are also kind of businessy, sportsy. Other than that, if you have a kid who's already kind of self-motivated, they already they're ready to, they want to work. They want to make some money. They want to, and
some kids also don't know. They need like guidance, right? They don't know.
Totally. And I do think, and I've been saying this since for 100 years, jobs trump everything. Like, get a job and you will learn everything you need to learn about the world.
I know. I always say this, but Jackson, my one that's a Boulder, he had a job and also had his own business. And I think that's really what propelled him. Like, his grades were fine, nothing great, but like Boulder's getting harder to get into. And I was worried and it was his number one. But I think having his own business, being able to speak to that and working set him apart from just like, all the other kids doing all the same thing. So no, that's really good. A lot of people have said that with the working piece.
You just can't replace learning how to deliver customer service, learning how to be uncomfortable, learning how to deal with difficult people, or a demanding boss or a dumb boss where you have to do everything for them. You will always come out of that situation having learned a very valuable lesson.
Yeah.
And you can't replicate that. No summer program that you spend $6,000 for is going to replicate that.
Okay, so let's go back to just like breaking down very quick steps for our listeners in terms of like what our kids should be doing. Like they start high school 9th, 10th, 11th. Like what are a couple things without getting overwhelmed that they can start thinking about or doing?
Okay, so remember that your 9th grader is still a baby. That's really important. A 9th grader does not have the frontal lobe development to really understand what they quote unquote should be doing, what looks good, even though their GPA does count. They are carrying their GPA with them into 10th grade. So in the back of your mind, if you can put a little pressure on them every once in a while, it's like I say to my son, like, let's try to get like an 89 on your next math test and not like a 79. You know what I mean? Let's, a little utsing is good. A little bit of pressure. Not crazy, not what are you going to do with your life? Do you know that if you don't get this, you're not going to go to Cornell, which is where I went, forget it. They are literally mentally not there. So let your 9th grader figure out how they learn best. Oh, I stayed up too late the night before my biology test and I didn't do that well, but like I got a good night's sleep the second time and I did so much better. Little things like that they're building blocks for them to learn how they learn. That's 9th grade. 10th grade is starting to kind of slough off the activities that don't serve you necessarily. So maybe you've always been in chorus, but you really, really want to pursue acting more seriously. And you can't do chorus and theater at school. They overlap. Starting to make sacrifices. I guess I'm not in chorus anymore. I mean, that sucks, but that's the real world. And if you want to pursue something in a more robust way, then you got to make the time for it. 10th grade is when those things start kind of sloughing off. Maybe you get into a varsity sport. Maybe you find, whoa, I cannot be on the varsity basketball team and play tennis and do this and do that. What's more important? So it's prioritizing. And it should be, when I say what's more important, it's what makes you happy. If you have to drag your kid out of the house for practice,
right.
This is something as a family, the big decisions are made in 10th grade like that. Do we really want to keep doing this?
Right.
You used to put your uniform and run into the car before I could even get my coffee, and now I have to drag you. Is this worth it? Maybe we want to do the other thing. So 10th grade's kind of like a narrowing. And hopefully the grades are getting kicked up a little bit. We want to start seeing an upward trajectory in the grades. That's also when conversations about test prep will come into. If you have a student who is in Algebra 2 as a 10th grader, by the way, that's the math you need for the SAT and the ACT. Don't even start, and I've had a tutoring company for 20 years. I always say, like, I could make all the money off of people being like, oh, you should start prepping in 9th grade. Finish Algebra 2, start prepping before junior year. So kind of build that in, like,
yeah, in the summer probably.
The summer before junior year, we should maybe start prepping so we can get it out of the way. If that doesn't work for your family, if your kid's going to camp, by the way, camp, because I'm sure you have a lot of East Coast people who listen.
Yeah.
Camp is such a big thing. I love camp. Camp is amazing. Before 11th grade, we should be a counselor or a CIT, right? But we're not going to camp anymore. Counselor or CIT is, I'm sorry, but I would never rob my kid of that experience. In fact, my kid's going to be a CIT this summer. He's gone for 7 weeks. He's 15. He could have a job. He could have you know what? He loves it. It is his happy place. Go.
Right.
So if you're wondering if camp is a thing, send your kid to camp. They only get that time in their life once. So, summer could be prep. It could be camp. It could be a job. There are a lot of could be's. I will say, though, that community service is something that really needs to start rearing its head big time. Summer before 11th grade or even during 10th grade. We've got to really start putting that in place. But low-hanging fruit. Oh, you're at the dance studio 5 days a week? I work with lots of dancers. Oh, there's a volunteer position to assistant teach the 5-year-olds ballet. Great, do that. You don't need to do some crazy whatever thing. Don't do programs in Costa Rica to build the house. Forget it.
Yeah.
There are plenty of things that can and need to be done in your local community. And they should relate to your interests. So the golf, for example, like there are some organizations in various areas of the country that I found that offer access to golf at public courses for kids from underserved communities and lessons and things like that. Maybe your son's like, you know what? I kind of want to give golf lessons. That'd be cool. And I actually know some kids who probably can't afford it. So maybe so you could do some paid, some free, some tutoring, so as long as it's related to what you love, great. Summer before 11th grade, we know we're messing around with that stuff. 11th grade is obviously the big moment where everybody gets freaked out.
Right. That's when the stress begins.
And the stress is really related to grades.
Yep.
If you have a kid who's not super high performing, there's a lot of stress of like, oh my God, they're going to get into college and they're going to get in where they're meant to be. Because by 11th grade, your student's kind of your student. Like that is who they are.
Right.
And they should be going to a college that is in alignment with who that student is. So let's not be thinking that they're going to go to Wash U, which is one of, I think, the hardest undergraduate programs in existence. You get there and it's hard. A lot of colleges, you get there, if you go to a really good high school, you get there and you're like, it's fine. So don't be thinking that your kid's going to be wanting to work their ass off in college. And it's okay if they don't.
Right.
So 11th grade should actually be the moment where you go, okay, I know what kind of kid I have. My kid's a BE student.
Yeah. I like that.
Totally fine.
Right.
They are not going to transform. I mean, maybe the grades will get a little better.
Right. They lock in a little bit.
They'll lock in some more, but better to err on the side of caution. You'll still have a couple reach schools. You'll throw a few in. If you get some surprises, great. But I think it's like just focus on the child sitting next to you, just like you did when you selected a preschool or when you selected a middle school or when you selected an elementary school. This isn't any different than that. And then senior year is just, the first semester is the worst.
Yeah.
It's just really hard. The more you can get done the summer before senior year, as far as the writing is concerned, the better.
Like the essay and the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The personal statement. So for those of you who are listening who aren't quite familiar with like the process, there are several different pieces of writing for the application. Most people will apply to college using what we call the common application, which it is called the common application. You are allowed to have 20 schools on that application. Hopefully you're not necessarily applying to 20. That's like a lot. Every one of those schools, for the most part, will take what they call the personal statement. And that is a generalized essay that goes to all of your schools. And it's really not supposed to be a resume regurgitation. It's really supposed to be an exploration of yourself, building out a moment that defined you, an experience, a hobby, something. But we don't need to hear about all the things you already have listed on your resume. Getting us a better sense of how compassionate you are or how hardworking you are or how dedicated you are to something, great. Then a lot of the schools will have what we call in the industry supplemental essays, which are additional essays. Like Boulder has one, what do you want to major in when you come here? There are questions like that. Now, some of the questions get a lot more nuanced. A lot of them, like if you look at Wake Forest's application, we're bringing in a Maya Angelou quote. We're a whole thing. So some of them are more nuanced. Some of them are really direct and really boring. But a lot of those are called the why essays. Not every school has them. If you can finish a draft of your personal narrative the summer before 12th grade and have it kind of done-ish by like September, that puts you in a really good spot. It can just be a draft and we have like through our service, Alexis College Expert, we have people send us their drafts. We edit them online for them, send them back within, 72 hours, and they have like a full edit. Have that version of a draft. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's ready for a read by someone.
Right. When you have time to focus on it. Because when school starts, it's like madness.
You also don't want 100 people reading your work. That's another thing. My English teacher read my essay and she said XYZ. Okay, here's the problem with your English teacher. Possibly. They're not an admissions person. This isn't an analytical essay. Every English teacher wants to incorporate quotes. I die. Every time. They're like, my English teacher said that if I start the essay with a quote, I'm like, no quotes.
Right.
We don't need a quote.
Right.
I don't need to focus on something that someone else said. I want to focus on what you are doing. Some English teachers are really, I was an English teacher, so some English teachers are really amazing at it, and they're very familiar with the process, and some of them have even worked in admissions. We want those people. We don't want random, I'll take a look at your essay person or your uncle or your whoever, unless there's somebody who interviews for schools, is pretty intimately familiar with the process. Really be selective about that. I think parents being involved in the writing process is really tricky. I don't know if you were involved in your son's.
I was not because I did not want to be deal. Like that's just, yeah.
That's where hiring a consultant really, really helps. Mm-hmm. And there are different, ways you can do that. Like for what we do, we have essay specialists. Our one law though is that you cannot work with us as counselors if you're working with someone else on your essays from another company or a family member or whoever. We're like, nope, doesn't work. We'll help you with your essays and not counsel you. That's fine. We have a whole team that just does that. But if you're working with us as counselors, if you're working with someone else on your essays from another company or a family member or whoever, we're like, nope, doesn't work. We'll help you with your essays and not counsel you. That's fine. We have a whole team that just does that. But if you're working with us, we're doing the whole shebang with you because we're working on the whole profile and we need to make sure. And then I don't want to be working at cross purposes with someone that someone else you're paying. I read the essay. What is this? No. And then the parents.
And parents probably can get in the way of that stuff too.
Oh my God. I actually fired a client recently. I fired parents who were driving us so bananas. When I tell you every day she's emailing us, we're not going to send in this essay. We're changing. Oh my God. We're this, we're that. And I finally sent an email and I said, I think we have different visions of what this process looks like. So as a parent, if you are not somebody who wants to fight with your kid, now some parents work really well with their kids and they have like this magic touch and the kid wants the parent to be, and great for you. But if you can hire someone to help you out with the process, it will make your life so much easier. Even in the inception of it, even just with the drafts, even if you have a trusted tutor you've worked with for years and years, the person who's worked with all your kids and their help, great. Use that person.
Right. And also just like the nagging you don't have to do because somebody else is responsible for that.
So we should talk about the scheduling piece of things, actually.
Okay.
I think that's a part of the process that's very stressful for parents. The wondering if things are getting in and done on time. Yeah. I highly encourage parents to have every password, every username to your kids' common application. Stay on top of, if you are somebody who your kid can stand, even if it's behind the scenes and you've hired someone, coming in and telling them, don't forget, like this, I know that this application's due in order for the kid to get an interview. I have people telling me that all the time. There are times when I don't know those deadlines. Yeah. They change all the time. Right. So parents will say, I just got an email. Let her know. Don't tell her I told you. Fine. Right. But be very diligent about that if you have a kid, especially who has executive functioning issues. The last thing you need is, them coming to you at 11:30 at night, the night, that the application's due and saying, oh, there's a glitch and it's not sending and it's not this and it's not that. We encounter that stuff all the time. And you're like, what? It's due today? Oh my God. Yeah, but beyond, just know you can secretly know things and secretly ask, I heard, wait, isn't the deadline for blah, blah, blah on, Sunday? Oh yeah, I already got it in. And you're like, oh, okay, great. Right. Good tip. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the ACT, SAT quickly. And because it went from optional to not optional, it keeps changing. So where do you see that going? Okay. So I'll do another shameless plug on my podcast. I had Robert Spooler, who's amazing, who's worked with me for 15 years, and he runs our ACT and SAT prep. And he said some very interesting things, one of which was, a lot of the changes that have been made to test themselves really are a function of, it's a business decision. Okay. So at the end of the day, this is a business for everybody. It's a business for me. It's a business for the College Board. It's a business for the ACT. So they're in the business of bringing the test back. That's what they need and want. Right. So it's almost like a lobby, right? If they could lobby on Capitol Hill to bring the test back, bring the test back again. Yeah. Test optional was a thing for a long time, even before COVID. There were schools that were test optional. Wesleyan was test optional. And I can't on the top of my head, whatever, but for years. Then COVID happens. Then we move into test optional territory because unless you're in Florida where everybody took the SAT weirdly, but it disappeared. Then they started, so Dartmouth brought it back. A bunch of the Ivies brought it back. And then we started, and then it was Miami. Then it was Ohio. Then it was, oh my God, it's really coming back. Texas. Florida schools never stopped requiring them, the Florida public schools. So I think that test optional makes life really hard for everybody for two reasons. The first is that it's jumped the average SAT and ACT score up astronomically high. The reason for that is the only people that are submitting scores are people that did really well, because why
Right.
would you send your test score if you didn't do really well?
Right.
So maybe 7 years ago, a 1390 was like a decent enough score. Well, now it's not for certain schools. And like, I remember I had a student pre-COVID, it was like 1410 from, I'm sending that to Michigan, you know. Now you probably wouldn't do that necessarily. It just depends obviously on your grades and whatever. So don't at me on that. But so it's really jumped the average score up, which scares people. And now all of a sudden everybody has to have a 1540.
Right. It's crazy.
It's just really weird. So then requiring the test is going to bring the average down, which is kind of great. And it's bringing the average down for test optional schools too, because what's going to happen is, and I'm seeing this, kids are getting swagger and they're like, well, you know what? I had to take the SAT for Miami. I got a 1410. I'm just going to send it to UVA. And I'm like, no, don't do that. And they're like, no, I'm going to do that. I'm like, okay. And so that's, I think that things are going to kind of level out as a result, because people are going to do things maybe they shouldn't. Maybe it won't matter eventually. Who knows? I think that we're going to see in the next 5 years, Michigan will go back, Wisconsin will go back. Everybody will go back pretty much to requiring it.
I guess, and I never thought about it that way. It is actually better, because then people who just get a great score, but not a perfect score, can actually maybe get into some schools that they can't now because everything's gotten so high.
You're just like, okay, this is my score. I got a 630 in math and a 680 on English here. You know, that was how it was when we applied to school.
Right.
I got a 12.
And now the ACT, they're not accepting the science anymore. So isn't it now pretty much similar to the SAT? Like, I don't get it.
It's a lot shorter. So again, competition, right? They're businesses. And how could you compete? The ACT was running at 3.5, 4 hours. Now the SAT is 2.5 hours. Give me a break. Who wants to take a test that's that long? Science was always the weird outlier where people, you know, I just think that they recognize, and they did this with the writing 2 section on the ACT. They made that optional as well. What's not great about that is that the kids who are really strong in that section, and by the way, just because you're a strong science student does not mean you're going to be a strong student in the science section of the ACT. Okay. They're not asking you to balance chemical equations. It's much more logic based and reading based than you think it is. So like, it's like, I'm really good at science. I'm like, that doesn't make a difference. So the science is now optional. It is not included in the composite score. The composite score is what you get. You know how people are like, oh, on the SAT, I got a 1520. The ACT composite is the average of all of the sections of the ACT, which is kind of crappy if you do really well in science. It's now no longer part of that composite. But if you do really well in science, you should absolutely take the optional section, and the college will see that score.
But it won't go into the composite score. It'll just be like a separate score.
It'll be a separate score, just like writing has always been, or has been for a long time. I think, and maybe I'm just, an optimist, but I really do feel that the schools kind of create their own version of everything from GPAs to test scores.
Yeah.
They pull what they're interested in seeing.
Right.
So if you're applying to Kenyon College, which is a very literary forward program, and you want to submit your test score, and because you have a really high English score, and maybe you have a perfect score on the SAT, but your math score is like a 610, but your English is like a 790. Kenyon is looking for that 790.
Right.
They don't really care about the math. I mean, they care about the math.
Right. So they'll look at that more than like the composite.
The school you're looking for. And
right.
What they're dealing with in their, in the pot of people that are applying. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good perspective. They all look at it differently, just like they look at all the schools that people are applying from differently.
But in general, though, I will say, just because of what I just mentioned, in general, if you're looking at a school, like if you're looking at an Ivy or you're looking at, a Michigan or one of those schools, the biggest issue is a large discrepancy in scores. So those schools who want to see kids that are strong across the board will not appreciate the 790 and the 610.
Right.
And if that's where you lie and you're applying to schools that are test optional, I would dump it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, switching quickly back to leadership positions and just kind of like things kids can do. So if you have a kid that's more quiet or introverted, what are some recommendations for the types of leadership positions that they may be able to do?
It's a really good question. I think that there's this idea that everybody has to do some sort of leadership something. That's first of all, let's
I think
just
yeah.
myth for a second. It is okay to be a very active member of a club. Okay. That consistently. Mm-hmm. All right. Started in 9th grade. Sorry, that was my dog. You started in 9th grade or in 10th grade and you're really involved in your club. Maybe you don't want to be the president of the club, but maybe you can be the treasurer or the secretary. If you can take on more of a micro position in the thing that you're involved in, help plan an event, help be, show up and be involved and grab a title where you can.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't have to be president, doesn't have to be co-president, whatever. That's a win for a kid who's more introverted.
Okay, that's really good advice.
And I also think for introverted kids, really sticking to, I never tell an introverted kid like, oh, you're really passionate about, surfing. Start a surf club at your school.
Right.
They're never going to do that.
Right.
That's terrifying. They're not going to start something, but they would probably be really happy to be involved in something that aligns with their interests, where they can have a few wins.
Yeah. That's very good advice. Okay. So a couple more questions I have for you. I could probably talk to you for 2 hours, but we all have things to do. Okay. When is the best time for someone to work with someone? Like you were saying, I mean, there's people that can work on an essay, but just like generally speaking, when is the good time? Is it 11th grade? Is it 10th grade? What do you say?
I think the sweet spot is 10th grade.
Okay.
10th grade is so perfect because that's when your kid's head is a little more in the game. Mm-hmm. And they feel the pressure, and meeting with someone like a me should make them feel confident and relaxed.
Yeah.
Never hire somebody who in your intake meeting makes your kid feel stressed out.
Right.
Do not do that. Even if you have a kid who needs to be a little more stressed out, because when the meetings start getting closer and closer, it's almost like pregnancy, when you have to go to the doctor every week.
Right.
When things get really close and you're meeting every week on whatever, they're going to avoid it because they're going to feel scared. And you really want to you want to work with somebody that makes that your kid says, I'll text them, I'll talk to so-and-so, that they feel they have ownership of that relationship. It's like a therapist. It's a very kind of close thing. And don't be afraid of saying, and we do this at our company, like, I don't have anybody sign big contracts or write me a big check. I'm very different than other counselors who require a tuition and a this and a that. Everybody does what I call a student profile strategy session with our team. And if you're working with me, then it's with me. If you're working with it, and I don't have a huge company. I have like 5 people. In that student profile strategy session, you pay for it, but you will get a ton of information. It's like a flat fee, and we work for like almost 2 hours. If your kid looks at you and goes, I can't with this person, like I don't like her, or then you know what? Bye. You learned a lot. That was great. Maybe we're not a fit. It doesn't happen that often for us, but you should really be like, can we do an intake meeting first? Happy to pay for it. Happy to whatever. Yeah. But I'd love to kind of see what the chemistry is like.
Right. Make sure there's a vibe.
And make sure you're paying for it because they're giving you valuable information.
Right.
And don't think you get that. Like, some people are like, can we just get on a call with you for like 30 minutes? I'm like, no.
Right.
I'm going to give you a lot of information and you're paying for it.
Yeah.
So make sure that it's someone your kid's really comfortable with and that they vibe with. 10th grade is great because they're really feeling the burn and they're ready to go. And I would say, like my own niece, who's like my daughter, I still haven't done an intake with her, and Like, I don't know everything about her, but I am saying that we do this exactly by the books, the way I do things. And I just texted my sister-in-law and I'm like, let's get our meeting on the books for after Thanksgiving. And that's a really good time. I met with a 9th grader last night. And I know, like in New York City, like that's a common time to get started. This girl really needed it because the parents were like, she's so extra. We don't know what to do with her. Like, help. If you have that kid who's so motivated, who's so hungry, who is a super curious, super self-driven, and you're like, I don't know what to do. That's you should meet with a counselor in 8th grade. Get on their roster. But once you start creeping in 11th grade, somebody that's really in demand, you're going to find that they might be full.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So earlier is better.
What is your point of view? There's a lot on social media about this, about not going to college, right? That's anti to your business, but I feel like that is the movement that people are talking about. I go, oh, you can be an entrepreneur. You can. Yep. So what are your thoughts on that piece? There's
actually just an article in the Wall Street Journal about a fellowship. Do you know about this? I'll send it to you.
No.
Okay. To answer your question for editing purposes. Okay. The movement away from college. So there's a lot of anti-college-ness. I could say that I think it really started to rear its head after October 7th, when people saw the protests and people saw the violence and people saw the campuses overrun with tents, and whatever their kind of political alignment was or wherever it was, they were just going, ew, these poor people are spending all this money to send their kids to college and look at this disaster. That's when I really started hearing a lot of people going, what is this? Like, what are you paying $90,000 for? Mm-hmm. So do I think that you can be an entrepreneur and not go to college? Sure. You can do a lot of things and not do a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's important to consider when your kid comes to you and says, why do I need to go to college? I'm just going to go in the family business, or I'm just going to run my own company, or I'm just, the problem is that between the ages of 18 and 21, no one wants you. Unless you are so exceptional. You've got the big break. Luck has met, opportunity has met, all the things. And you're like, I got to take this and run with it. You're an actor. You're an artist of some kind. You're somebody who, like, you got a TV show, or you have a VC funding for your company that you started when you were 10.
Right.
Okay.
Different story.
There are always exceptions. But between 18 and 21, you are the puppy that nobody wants. You are not developed psychologically. You need to figure out the A, B's, and C's of life, which is getting up, getting to class, doing your laundry, managing your crazy roommate, managing the boyfriend that's not talking to you anymore, managing this, going to the party, being hungover. How are you going to wake up in the morning? How are you getting a job, managing school? This college is the incubator.
Right.
This is the place I call it's a dog crate.
Right.
Close the door and walk away, parents. Let them shit in the crate.
Right. Figure it out. This is most people do not look back on their college experiences and go, ugh, what a waste of time. Right.
Who does that? What do you need to do?
Most people say it was like the best time of their life.
And everybody deserves to have the best time in their life. The rush to nowhere. Okay, so we're rushing to make money. We're rushing to have a job. Okay, that's a forever thing. That's never going anywhere.
Right.
But that 4 years of like just suspension from reality, but also having reality, is really special if you're fortunate enough to have it. Now, again, if you're the exception person, great. But I will say 9 times out of 10, those people will look back in their 40s and 50s and 60s and go, I wish I'd gone to college.
Right.
nobody regrets it. And it's also something that can't be taken away from you.
Right.
You can lose your job. You can lose all your money. You can whatever. But that time period, and then also to say nothing of the fact that when do you get a chance to figure out what you like to do?
Right. That's when you get to figure it out.
I think it's dangerous to listen. If we were in a post World War II world where it was basically like industry, become a plumber. If that's but there's still schooling for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's still trade school. There's still, and those things are super important. And
getting more popular, honestly, because of AI.
Very popular. Like AI is not going to fix your toilet. So
yeah,
great. But if you have the opportunity and you're somebody who will take advantage of those 4 years to do all the things, travel, learn, be uncomfortable, meet great friends, blah, 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 then great. Now, I'm not saying everyone's designed for that. And let's also not forget community college is really important. We have an amazing system in this country. It's one of the few things we actually do well. And approaching higher education from a slow pace and letting our kids have the opportunity to get an AA degree or go to college for 2 years and kind of see if it's their thing. You get an AA degree and you're like, I'm still going to go be a plumber. Great.
Right.
Fantastic. But at least you took a bunch of cool classes, you figured it out, and then, we didn't spend $100,000.
Right. Yeah. I love that perspective. Okay, I have 2 more questions, and one could be a really long question, so 2 things I want to know. Like, A, what are some schools right now that you're loving and that are surprising you that maybe people aren't thinking about? And 2, this is probably a whole episode, but scholarships, sports scholarships, where do people go for resources on that? Because I feel like it is so overwhelming. No one knows, it's just, I wouldn't even know where to start if I was in that position.
Okay. Colleges that I'm loving right now. I'm loving colleges that have I love the off the radar colleges. Those are my jam. And I say this all the time on social, everyone who's applying to the same 22 schools cannot be surprised that it's so hard to get into XYZ. Since when did it become so hard to get into blah, blah, blah? I'm like, well, because everyone's applying there. So we have 4,000 colleges in this country. There are so many amazing schools. And I'm going to give a shout out to 2 schools that I just visited, Marquette and Bowling Green State University. And also Elon, which is another favorite of mine. So Marquette and Bowling Green, if you're looking for a Jesuit university, like a Jesuit style university where if you let's say LMU was on your radar or University of San Diego or Georgetown or whatever, something where there is that kind of spine of service, the idea of people for others. That's what the Jesuit philosophy is. Marquette is fabulous. It is in Milwaukee. The campus is gorgeous. Milwaukee is a super cool city, but you still have a campus. It kind of reminds me a lot of University of Denver too, a little bit. An incredible undergraduate business program. I'm very into business programs that people can actually get into.
Yeah.
Amazing facilities, great hands-on learning opportunities, fantastic professors. I spent time speaking with everyone from, the admissions team to professors to students to whatever. And I was really impressed by everyone there. They have a nice theater program. They have it all. Bowling Green State University. So I spent a lot of time in the Midwest in the last month and a half. Bowling Green State University. People are going to be like, what the hell is that? You'll see it. BGSU is what they call it. And it actually shows up a lot in different searches. Bowling Green, Ohio is the perfect college town. Think Ann Arbor, think Madison, but small. You have tons of coffee shops, tons of bars, tons of cuteness, Midwestern lifestyle. Campus is gorgeous. Their programs, I'm going to be doing a whole video about them, so stay tuned on that. They have a life design program, which this is what these schools are doing that are so interesting, and we're all stuck in school. Life design. Your kid goes to college and has no clue what they're doing. They have a building and advisors dedicated to designing your life, both in college and out of college. What you're going to major in, what kind of, like literally from anagram tests to figuring out what makes you tick. You love to write, you love to listen, you love to learn, you love to dance, you love to whatever. Okay, well, here are the programs that we offer that are really in alignment with what you love. You meet with that advisor like once a week. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing program. They have to go into architecture. You want to do build houses. Their architecture and their construction management program are in lockstep with each other. So you want to be you want to be the next KB Homes? Great. You're also going to be working directly with architecture students. It's just a very hands-on. So I was so impressed by these.
Cool.
I loved Elon when I went last spring. I love these schools that are like the 5,000 to 11,000 kids. Elon's that place. You're always going to be taught by your professor. You're always.
Yeah, I heard that's beautiful.
It is gorgeous. And one of the reasons why I can't get anyone to go there is because the town is kind of a whole lot of nothing. And that's the problem. But I also feel like, what do you need?
Right.
Like, it's not in the middle of nowhere. It's just a boring town. 10 minutes away is another town.
Right.
And 30 minutes away is Duke. And, it's not like you're like on a farm.
In the middle of nowhere. Right. Right.
If they literally built 3 more restaurants and like a city Target there, people would be like, I love that town.
Totally. Someone's listening and we'll do that.
Yeah, probably. Exactly. Somebody build a city Target in Elon and we'll be great.
Yeah.
I love those schools that are the schools that maybe no one's really heard of, but nobody's really heard of them in your township in New Jersey. But if you get out of there and you go, our country's very big. People go, oh yeah, I went to BGSU. Best school ever. Best time ever. It was rated in the top 6, the Wall Street Journal, of schools that people would go to over and over and over again. And their
very
tuition
cool.
is
Yeah. Elon, out of those, Elon is the one that I've heard of the most. And I feel like the last 5 years, I keep hearing about it and it's getting more popular than it was, at least by me, East Coast. Okay. And then where do people go to find out information if they want a scholarship or sports? Okay. What's the resource for that?
So scholarships can be accessed. There's FastWeb. I would get on those sites and enter in your personal information well before your kid is a senior. Start playing around with that because there's a lot of money out there. You just have to kind of know how to get it.
Yeah.
You may also find that in your area, everything from like the water and power supplier to your local federal credit union, they all have scholarship opportunities. It's crazy. You can grab 5,000 here, 2,000 there, 10,000 here, and all of a sudden you may have paid for a semester of school. So I also rely on, let me get the name of the book. Everybody should get this book. It's a lot of work, but if you start early, The Ultimate Scholarship Book.
Okay.
It's this thick, but they do it a lot of it's based on region. So, if you're in the DC area or you're in the New York City area or whatever, and then it'll show you local businesses that participate, places like City National Bank, like they have scholarships. No one knows how to apply, what to do, blah, blah, blah. There are Catholic organizations that have scholarships. The Jewish Federation offers scholarships. There's a million different things, but you have to get started early. If you're messing with that fall of senior year, you're going to lose your mind.
Yeah. So get on it early.
Sports scholarships, that's a complicated thing. If you've got a kid that's being recruited, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's I feel like it's done through the school more, or like it seems like that from
and the NCAA rules are really complicated. You can't really give a kid a scholarship to play at your school. That's like bribery. Now that's why they're paying kids to play, the D1 schools. Usually if they really want you to play, you're going to get some sort of merit aid based on your academic standing. That's why it's also really good if you're an athlete and you are going to be ultimately wanting money. It's very good to be a very good student as well as an athlete.
Right.
Or even a decent student.
Right.
Maintain an average that's, if you could be like a 3.3 and a killer varsity athlete, that's going to get you some attention. Not from like an Ivy League school, but definitely from, and there are schools like Ohio Wesleyan. Elon's another one that take a lot of athletes and they give a lot of money. I've had 2 students who were offered well over $100,000 at Ohio.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Incredible.
A huge amount of their student population's athletes.
Wow. Good to know. Who knew?
So the other piece of advice too is if you're willing to look a few notches below what you would consider your personal standard, I wouldn't play at that school. I wouldn't go to that school. Go visit that school you allegedly wouldn't, whatever.
Right.
Maybe you won't play there for 4 years. Maybe you'll transfer, whatever. But those are the schools that are going to give you the big money.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I could literally ask you 10,000 more questions. We might have to do a part 2.
I'm so happy to do that anytime.
I'm going to pick up my freshman from the airport soon, which is why I need to go. I know. It's like very exciting. We forgot to do, I forgot in the beginning, we usually do like our weekly high. And so I was going to say that's going to be my weekly high when he comes in. I'm very excited. So yeah, first time home since he left. So very excited. But I will ask you one question before we leave, which is completely off topic because it is a wellness show.
Great.
And you always look great on video. So I would like to know, what is your favorite beauty or wellness hack?
Okay. I don't know if it's so hacky, but I'm just going to be honest and let's talk about filler and Botox.
Yes.
So it's just painful. And
nothing like some fresh Botox.
I have to tell you, I love Skin Vive. And for any of you guys who have an esthetician who offers Skin Vive, they map your face and they do very light injections of essentially water hydration. This has changed my skin. It's not crazy expensive.
Is it a facial?
No, it's an injection, a very light little prick. And you have you can walk away. I told you there's no bruising, there's nothing. But I have very dehydrated skin and I have people like, drink water, blah, blah, blah. Use this moisturizer. Forget it. It's from the inside out. Yes, drinking water helps.
Yes.
But this procedure is amazing and it takes they numb you and it takes 20 minutes and it's phenomenal.
Never heard of that. Skin Vive. Okay.
Skin Vive.
And it like plumps your skin and like hydrates it?
It plumps and hydrates it. It's not a filler. It's not, if people are afraid of that stuff, it's not like that. It's
interesting.
Literally an injection.
How long does it last?
About 6 months.
Wow.
I've forgotten I got it. I got it about a month ago and I was like, God, why is my skin so not dehydrated? And I remembered that I got the Skin Vive and I was like, oh, now it's working. Because it takes a few weeks to kick in.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. And a good spray tan never hurts.
Love a good spray tan.
I got nothing else. I'm not like the person who uses the $400 moisturizer.
Well, you look great.
I get regular facials and I do use Eminence products, which I like a lot.
Okay. I love that.
But thanks.
And where can people find you? Because obviously your content is amazing and so accessible and such good tips and advice and all the things. So give us your TikTok and Instagram and all the things.
TikTok and Instagram at College Expert with one E in the middle, COLLEGEXPERT. And you can find us at alexiscollegeexpert.com and learn about all of our services. We have a million different things that we do, from full-fledged consulting to online essay editing. Also, I'm going to plug 2 things. My College Bound workshop, which is, I have a 5.5-hour workshop that's separated into modules where I literally teach you everything that I know.
Oh, that's awesome.
$299. Don't sleep on the College Bound course, you guys. It is the best. And I'm not saying that because I invested a ton of money and I worked my ass off to make it, because I did do both of those things, but I did it because I'm passionate about access, and it's a great one. And it's really good for parents. Literally learn how to be a college counselor for your kid through this course. Yeah. That's awesome. A. And then B, my workshops. I do workshops. We do seasonally. We start in August and we do a ton of them throughout, basically from August through January.
Nice.
And you can also purchase the workshops on the website. So if you're needing help with your UC applications, with your personal statement, with your resume, I have a workshop on every single thing.
Oh, wow. Okay. Incredible.
And they're a lot of fun because they're interactive and people ask questions and yeah.
Amazing. So many resources. So, and I love how you have the accessible piece too, if like someone just wants to like learn the process, but not, you know, yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Wellness Junkies. For more on today's episode, follow us on Instagram at Wellness Junkies Official and find us on TikTok and YouTube at Wellness Junkies. You can also head to wellnessjunkiesofficial.com for expanded show notes, product links, and more. If you love the episode, leave a review and share it with a friend. We appreciate the love. Catch you next week. Bye.